PCN is brought to you in part by the following underwriters.
Welcome to PCN, local stories from Kingston, Duxbury, Pembroke, and Plymouth. This week we take you to a Holocaust Memorial Day event in Plymouth, a community bridge build in Kingston, and we meet some girls who code at Pembroke Library.
PCN brings you to the marijuana dispensary being built in Plymouth to learn more about the plans and the timeline.
We talk with Snug Harbor Community Chorus in Duxbury as they're about to say goodbye to their retiring director of 16 years, and Drs Orders is back with sun safety information.
We launch a new segment called Treasury Notes with Plymouth County Treasurer Tom O'Brien, who comes on the set monthly to bring us financial information that affects our lives on many levels.
It's going to be a great show, and we start with things in Duxbury. After 16 years as director, Roy Kelly is retiring from Duxbury's Snug Harbor Community Chorus. It's an emotional time for all involved, as May 13th will be his last concert. PCN stopped into a recent rehearsal to learn more about the chorus and Mr. Kelly's time association with them.
So I got to get you into...
You know, I've done this for a good many years, and each year I try to stay at the end of the program when I'm on stage after solo to thank all our patrons and all our advertisers for the support that they have given the group, and I hope that that will continue, because without them we wouldn't be here. I have some people who are very well trained in music, who read well, and others who are here for the community spirit. And they just enjoy singing, and they go right in, and I try to bring them out of their comfort zone, and I think for the most part I've succeeded. You take every year with a new repertoire of music, and you try to bring it to the best possible place in the level of expertise that you can, and I just enjoy watching people rise to the occasion.
Our spring concert is coming up on May 13th. We're losing our beloved director who's retiring, Roy Kelly, after the concert, but we're gaining a new director in the fall. So it's going to be interesting with all these changes to see how things go. He's been the director of Snug Harbor for 16 years. He was the director of another chorus in Millis for 30 years. So people that have been with him are used to him. Some of the members of Snug Harbor have been with the group even before Roy started. The group was in existence for maybe 2 to 3 years before he came. And so we have a few members that have been here that whole time. So they'll be the ones probably that will miss him the most. It is Roy Kelly's last concert. After 16 years as director, it would be a great tribute if we could provide a large audience for him. It should be fun. There's some new things that we're doing, and a lot of people are coming back, some former members who couldn't be in the group this time. And so it should be a really enjoyable event.
The Kingston Conservation Commission and Open Space Committee held a community build day for a bridge over the Jones River and a boardwalk through the connecting floodplain on Cranberry Watershed Preserve. The bridge, which is along the Bay Circuit Trail, will be 36 feet long, and the boardwalk will be around 300 feet long. The project is funded by the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation through a Recreational Trails grant. PCN stopped into the community build event to bring you this story.
For 2 hours, because that gets kind of crazy. Well, you know,
Today is Earth Day 2017. We're really happy to be here with some volunteers to work on a Jones River Bridge and Boardwalk building project. It's a community build project. Right now we have 21 volunteers signed up to help us. That doesn't include the Recreation Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Open Space Committee that we're working with to build the project. It's a community build. We got a grant from Department of Conservation and Recreation to build this project, And as part of the agreement, we are required to provide match. So our match is going to be with volunteer hours. So we're very happy to have everyone here helping us to build the project. It's a project that's going to improve local trails and also regional trails because it's on the Bay Circuit Trail, which is a 200-mile trail that runs from the North Shore to the South Shore. So it's really going to improve accessibility regionally and locally to the trails. It's going to help the Appalachian Mountain Club, who helps to manage the trails, and the Bay Circuit Alliance to improve our accessibility along the Bay Circuit Trail. The main goal is to improve the trail accessibility. The portion where we are putting the bridge and the boardwalk really requires walking through a flood zone and a river. So when the river's flowing really high, you basically cannot cross it at this point. Even when the river is running low, it can be a little challenging. The rocks that are there to help you cross can be slippery. And then the flood zone area is also muddy and just not very pleasant and accessible to traverse right now. So we really are looking forward to improving that section for everyone. So this project has been evolving over time. So when we first conceptualized the project and the bridge, we were going to build a wooden bridge. And in order to be able to span the river and have it be structurally sound, the stringers were going to be quite heavy in order to bring in by hand. And so since then, we've sort of rethought the project, and we're going to be getting an aluminum bridge, which is much easier to install. We don't have to build it. It's going to be built. The only thing we'll have to do is add the decking to it, and we can just hand carry it in from the roadway, and it's going to be a lot easier than having a volunteer build a sort of a complicated bridge. So that part's going to be, I believe it's a 30-foot span aluminum bridge, and then attached to that is going to be a 300-foot long wooden boardwalk, and that's the part that's going to be built by the volunteers. I would just like to say thank you to everyone who's collaborating on the project, including all of the volunteers, because it really is going to be a big improvement of this section of the trail. And I think it will get a lot of people interested in the trails and perhaps doing more projects in the future.
While it's still many months away from being operational, there is a new medical marijuana facility being built right here in Plymouth. We dropped in to see how things were coming along in phase 1 of construction.
The important thing about this project for me was the medical aspect of it. I'm involved with the Plymouth Youth Development Collaborative, and I've seen the problems that we've had with opioids in our community. And I look at medical marijuana as pain relief, as a way for people who are looking for a natural way to ease their pain or deal with some of their other medical conditions, to, instead of going to opioids or other pharmaceuticals, that now they have an option, which is all natural medical marijuana.
This is a single-story concrete block building, and with very small windows for the most part. But they needed a building that was going to be secure on its own. There is a fair amount of security that's going on that we have added, besides perimeter fencing and cameras and that sort of thing. But the building itself is pretty strong. Just coming up the driveway and looking at its location and looking at the nature of the building made it ideal for this dispensary and cultivation area. The building we're in already had office space in one area and manufacturing in the other. So it just made sense in this particular case to continue to have offices and dispensary in the office space and use the warehousing for the grow rooms.
At full build-out, we'll have over 50 people here, and that's between both the dispensary side and the cultivation and the processing and support staff. The biggest difference is when you're growing cannabis in your dorm room, you don't know what you're getting. And it's not a controlled environment. Here, the temperature has to be correct, the lighting has to be correct, the humidity has to be correct, and everything, as I mentioned, that we sell has to be tested so you know exactly what you're getting, which you're not getting if you're just growing in your backyard or in your attic or your dorm room.
The building is actually broken up into a couple different areas because we have the dispensary area that is open to the general public, if you will, to a certain extent. And then the other 3/4 of the building is the cultivation area.
First off, I'd have to say that the town of Plymouth has been excellent to deal with. They understand, the staff, the Board of Selectmen, the professional staff understand the difference between medical and recreational. We're focused on medical, and to be honest, we haven't seen a whole lot of pushback on the medical, and we hope once we get up and operating in the fall that that'll stay the case.
Slowly but surely, women all over are working to close the gender gap in the workplace. Thanks to the national nonprofit Girls Who Code, girls from elementary to high school are being inspired with the computing skills they'll need to pursue 21st century opportunities. We met up with the group's instructor during one of their sessions.
Out of the second and the third list. Girls Who Code is a nonprofit. It's founded out of New York of 3 or 4 years ago. And its intent was really to close the gender gap with women in technology. I've worked in high tech for 30 plus years. Very, very common. You're in a room with 40 people and you're the only woman. The numbers are, maybe about 20% women at best, and it gets lower the higher up the leadership chain that you go. There's really 2 problems. One is the pipeline problem. There's so few women getting into high tech, getting into computer science, and then even within industry, there's a higher attrition rate. This nonprofit is looking to address the first problem, which is to get more girls into and interested in computer science, so they consider taking it as a major in college and go into the high-tech field. We start the course with some basics on programming. So we're about 6 weeks in, the girls have done a number of exercises to learn some basic programming skills. And then we've also been talking about community-based projects, something relevant to us in the community, something beneficial. And the girls themselves selected a number of ideas, they whittled it down, and they came to the decision to say, let's put up a website of a guide of South Shore beaches. So once we've now made that decision, breaking down the different tasks that we have to do, how do we want the website to look, dividing up the tasks, and so on. The program is for girls 6th to 12th grade. And I think we have a mix of 6th to 11th, so pretty much that range. The programs, these are either the club sessions, which generally are geared for the full school year. Now, we didn't start until our first class was in March. I started prepping for it in January, but our first session. But the curriculum is very flexible, and so I was able to pick and choose and not cover as much as I would have if it had been the full year. And for me, one thing that's very important is it's more than coding. It's getting them to participate, getting them to speak up. I try to, after so many years working in high tech in what's often been a male-dominated sport, these girls will go to college, and if they haven't taken something like this in their first computer science class, the boys have been playing in the garage and doing things. They get there, they feel intimidated, they feel like they're behind. So really this is to make them feel like they're in the right spot, that they're welcomed there, and they can stand up. And so for me, it's as much of empowering girls to grow into powerful women who can compete and do their great contribution, whatever it is.
The Beth Jacobs Synagogue hosted this year's Holocaust Memorial Day. It was an interfaith observance commemorating one of the most tragic events in human history. We attended the gathering that took place on Tuesday, April 25th.
The name of the observance is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Day, literally. It's a day in remembrance of the Holocaust, the people who died, the people who were rescued, the rescuers, the survivors. And it is observed annually in the Jewish calendar on the 27th day of the month in which Passover falls, according to the Jewish calendar. And we're observing it tonight, partly because that day actually fell Sunday night into Monday, and it was school vacation week, and we wanted to make sure that we could bring in a number of the students from the Plymouth high schools, which in fact we are happy to say is happening right now. Upstairs, we have a choir from Plymouth North and a choir from Plymouth South, and we also have a small orchestral ensemble tuning up right now. The readers tonight come from the religious community. Many of the ministers, along with the rabbi and one of the priests, are all participating. There's one of our own high school kids is participating as a reader. And then there are readers representing the No Place for Hate committee, with whom we've been collaborating for a number of years. We originally did this on our own as an interfaith council. And a few years later, I was approached by the No Place for Hate committee, and it seemed like a very good match, and it has been that way ever since. The readings that have been chosen have a relationship to survivors and rescuers. They tell stories of the Holocaust. We don't read the same stories every year, though some of them are repeated year after year because they are key to understanding. There will be references to the slaughtering, the massacres of the Armenians, one whole generation earlier. And we actually end with a reference to that event, as well as begin with a reference to that event. It's almost convenient to be able to overlook such a horrendous chapter in human history and in Jewish history. And when we're able to teach our children about what happened then, they too will be able to say, we have to make sure this never happens again.
Drs Orders is back with our friends from Beth Israel Deaconess in Plymouth as we head to Pine Hills to learn about sun safety.
My name is Dr. David Herrick. I'm a board-certified internist who works for Beth Israel Deaconess Healthcare. I'm going to talk about ways to protect yourself from sun damage for PCN Drs Orders. Actually, the times to prepare your skin for sun exposure would be right now. People have to realize that the intensity of the sun is the same as it is in the middle of August. So even though it's not very warm out, you still get the same type and the same amount of ultraviolet exposure. People have to realize that you can have a sunburn even on a cloudy day. You get a sunburn even if you're sitting in the shade because the ultraviolet rays bounce off of everything. So what do you do? Well, the thing of it is, I think you need to depend on how much time you're going to spend outside. If you're going to spend more than, say, a half hour, then it's reasonable to take some precautions. Precautions being, for the most part, two things. Putting on a sunscreen, and you can also buy clothing that protects against ultraviolet radiation. The people have to realize that when you use sunscreen, it comes in different, you might have heard of something called the sun protective factor, SPF, and you read the labels, 15, 30, 50, you know. SPF 15 gives you 93% block of the ultraviolet rays. SPF 30 gives you 98%, and higher than that will give you even more. But it's not necessary to have the extremely high number of SPF. What's really more important is putting on a sunscreen that covers well. Should be a thicker type of sunscreen, and you should apply it frequently, every hour or two. Even in the stuff that says that it's resistant to sweat and water, things like that. You're going to apply sunscreen. You really should apply it about 20 minutes before you actually intend to go outside, because the sunscreen has to penetrate through the upper layers of the skin, the epidermis to the dermis, which is a living part of the skin. The sun is most intense from 10 in the morning to 3 to 4 in the afternoon. So this is Dr. David Herrick. Thanks for listening for PCN Doctor's Orders.
Here at PCN, we have a great new segment called Treasury Notes. It's all things finance, and to co-host the Treasury Notes section with me is the Plymouth County Treasurer, Tom O'Brien. Welcome, Tom.
Julie, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to the new segment, Treasury Notes.
We're looking forward to having you because we have not done a financial segment here on PCN yet, and there's a million topics that we can go to in the future. But to start today's episode, let's talk a little bit about your background and what brought you here today. What's your background in finance?
Well, I think we have to go a little before that, if that's okay. Some of your viewers may remember me as a state representative for the 12th Plymouth District. I served as a state representative from 1996 to 2006. 10 great years where we were able to do a lot of things in our communities. I don't envy my former colleagues that are still in the House and the Senate. It's a very difficult job. They don't have a lot of easy decisions. Money is very tight, so this segment will be touching on that a little bit, about state resources and federal resources. But after doing that for 10 years, one of the things I did was get my financial certifications because I've always had an interest in finance. It fascinates me, and I think it fascinates a lot of people, and hopefully we can demystify that a little bit.
Is this like a certified financial planner?
No.
Okay.
What I did was I went out and got my Series 63 and my Series 6 so I could serve as an advisor, and what I did was I advised high net worth individuals on their finances. Fortunately for me, I did that during the heyday of the marketplace.
Right. So everyone did well.
Everyone did very well.
Yeah.
And this position opened up in 2006. My predecessor, Treasurer John McClellan, had retired, and I saw this as an opportunity to use my educational background, my legislative background, and my financial background to take over as the Plymouth County Treasurer. I've been reelected twice, and I certainly thank the voters for returning me to this seat. It's fascinating. We've had a Plymouth County Treasurer since 1685.
Wow.
And during that time period, I am only the 22nd Plymouth County Treasurer.
Wow.
That's amazing. So I serve as the treasurer for Plymouth County and a few other things as well.
Okay, so a lot of people are confused as to what a county government is all about. What does the county treasurer do? What are you responsible for?
I think the easiest way to understand it, Julie, is that I am the chief financial officer for the county.
Okay.
I manage the budget, I manage the finances, I manage the investments of the county. Plymouth County, in terms of its budget, is relatively small, but we have so many other different areas, and the total financial resources under my management are in the billions of dollars. So there's a big responsibility in this job, most of it on the Retirement Association, and we can talk about that in a bit if you like.
So let me just so people understand. So the Plymouth County, the money that you have, the people's money that you're dealing with, are the municipal employees.
So the money that we deal with in Plymouth County, and I think you're thinking of the pension, so that's on the retirement side.
That's different, okay.
So on the county side, we deal with the resources to operate the county budget. County, think of it as a regional level of government.
Okay.
So it's in between the towns and the states.
All right.
Plymouth County is 27 communities here in Plymouth County, running from east to west, from Plymouth to Brockton, north to south, from Hull down to Mattapoisett.
Okay.
And so those communities in that area. Each of the communities pay an assessment to the county to operate regional services.
Which are, for example?
So the one that we're proudest about, we're going to put into the next budget, we're hiring an entomologist. An entomologist is an insect specialist.
Yeah, bug guy.
Yes.
Or girl.
Tick-borne illness,
Yes.
incident rates of tick-borne illness in Plymouth County are increasing dramatically and rapidly.
Right.
We all have somebody or know somebody that may have suffered from Lyme disease. Incredibly, Massachusetts is has the third highest incident of Lyme disease in the country of all the states. It always makes me ask, well, we're 1 and 2. Maine and Vermont.
Yeah.
Massachusetts is third.
Yeah.
And Plymouth County in Massachusetts is the third highest incident rate in all of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
And in fact, 2 of our communities are in the top 10 of the 351 communities in Massachusetts. Marion is number 1. Marshfield is number 10.
So
we've hired this entomologist for the towns as a resource.
So we look to you for the bug problems, the mosquitoes, the ticks.
Well, you will
when it becomes
as
a problem.
You will as of July 1st. That's a new program we're bringing on to help educate people about the risk of Lyme disease.
Right.
But they'll also be there to help with pest control, gypsy moths and the
Yes,
like.
right.
But we also offer other regional services. People probably know best the Registry of Deeds.
Oh, right. Yep.
That's managed by the county.
Yep.
And so we're responsible for the oldest documents in the history of the United States of America,
Wow.
right here
And that's
at
John
the Plymouth
Buckley.
County
Yeah.
Registry of Deeds.
Yeah.
Our registrar is our good friend John
Yeah.
Buckley. He's been there for a number of years, does a fantastic job. We actually think we have the best registry in all of New England,
Of course we do.
probably in the eastern United States.
Right.
So all of those records are there. We actually have a vault room that we've constructed where people can go see the first deed recorded
Oh, that's
in the
cool.
United States
Good
of America.
history. Yeah,
There is.
yeah.
We maintain and manage courthouses. We could talk a long time just about what the county does, but
Okay.
think regional services
Right.
for the 27 communities.
Okay, now is the sheriff's department is that regional?
So it is regional, and the sheriff's department was part of Plymouth County for and part of each of the counties for a long time. However, the state decided in 2010 to take them over. There's probably differing views as to whether that was a good idea or not. I know they've been able to effectuate some economies of scale.
Yep.
We also know that the budget has increased a lot.
Right.
But I know that Sheriff McDonald works very hard, does a great job.
Yes.
It's probably interesting for him working for the state as opposed to for the county. He may have had more autonomy with the county. Now he has to report to the Department
Right,
of Corrections.
right.
But there are other programs that we run that are regional. One of the neat ones
Yep.
is we have a fire control airplane.
Oh.
And so retired fire chiefs from the communities in Plymouth County go up in this plane during high incidents of a potential fire
Yeah.
in Plymouth County. And we have two of the largest state forests in the Commonwealth, obviously Miles Standish, but
Right.
people don't even know about Rocky Gutter over in Middleborough.
Right,
And so
never
the
heard of
plane
it.
goes up and tries to identify potential fire hazards
Okay.
before they start, saving ultimately hundreds of millions of dollars in potential property damage.
So you're very proud of what you do at the county level here.
Well, what we know is that it's the trend of the future. It
Yeah.
really is. If you travel around the country and you go to Pennsylvania or Maryland or Florida, what do you hear about and learn about? The counties.
Right.
They're more prevalent than the towns.
Yeah.
I don't think that will ever happen here in Massachusetts, but towns can no longer afford
Right.
to provide all the services that they
So
provided.
you're pooling it, you're sharing
and
it.
so it's,
Yeah.
it's effectuating
makes
economies
sense.
of scale.
Right.
It really makes
It
sense.
really does.
Towns are reluctant, and we understand, to give up programs that they've worked on for decades,
Mm-hmm.
if not centuries. However, it really becomes cost efficient to work with your neighbor. And if the county can be a resource to do that, it wouldn't make sense for every town to hire an entomologist.
Right,
It
exactly.
wouldn't make sense for every town to have a fire controlled
Right.
airplane.
But you can do it for the 27 towns.
But if we can
very
do it for the
effectively.
27
Yeah.
towns. Another program we're working on is a dredge. We just purchased a long arm excavator to help communities with some of the dredging
And a
needs.
lot
So-
of communities need dredging, and it's exorbitantly expensive to do it community by community.
It is,
Right.
and so while we probably can't do the whole project, what we can do is reduce the cost.
Sure.
We're providing equipment they couldn't get elsewhere.
Sure.
So it really makes a lot of sense, and I think you're just going to see it grow and grow, and we've seen that over the last couple of years at Plymouth County.
Okay. So we're almost out of time, unfortunately. Going forward, as we move ahead with you in future episodes, we'll talk about all the different pools of money that you manage for the Plymouth County area as the treasurer. We also want to talk about things that affect individuals, like mortgage rates, oil prices, retirement funds, health insurance. Any last comments on the types of things that you'll bring to us over the next months and years?
Well, I think you, I think you hit on some of the high points. There's a lot that happens at the federal level, state level, county level, and town level that impact our lives financially that people don't think about. And I think the intention of this show is to talk about those and maybe bring the impact of low mortgage rates right now home to them. What does that mean?
Right.
Should we refinance? Should we not refinance?
Exactly.
The benefit of a HELOC versus a home equity line of a loan. So
Right.
there's a lot that we're going to talk about.
And we will.
And we've just barely scratched the surface.
Okay, all right, that's great. And if people have any questions or subjects they want us to talk about, you can email kim@pactv.org with your suggestions.
Yeah, that's where I get my best ideas is
Right.
from the people that are watching or the people that call my office.
Right.
And so if they don't want to call Kim, they could call me, and we'll be happy to see what people want to hear about.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much. This went too quickly, and we'll see you again very soon.
Fantastic. Thanks
Okay.
for having me.
Thank you. And thanks for watching. To find out more about PCN or to rewatch any segment, go to pactv.org or check us out on YouTube. PCN is also on Facebook and Twitter, so be sure to follow us there. Stay tuned as a new PCN Life episode is coming right up.